Filthy black kid, get away from my car! The white valet shoves 9-year-old Brianna Wilson so hard she crashes into the curb. Her envelope, her mother's last hope, lands in a puddle, ink bleeding into dirty water. You people think you can touch a $300,000 car? Go back to the welfare office where you belong. Inside Whitmore Tower, CEO Jonathan Whitmore settles into his Bentley's leather seat. The door shuts with a whisper. Silence. Privacy. Control. He's scrolling through emails when a shadow falls across his tinted window. A black child stands outside in the rain, trembling. Soaked clothes, worn shoes. She presses the ruined envelope against his bulletproof glass, her small hand shaking. Their eyes meet through the barrier. She mouths something, one word he can't hear but can read on her desperate lips. His hand freezes on his phone. What happens next will expose a conspiracy that stole millions from 87 families. It starts with one impossible choice. The word she mouths is simple: help. Jonathan Whitmore stares at the child through bulletproof glass. Rain streams down her face, or maybe tears, he can't tell. The envelope in her hand is dissolving. He should tell his driver to go. He's late. The fundraiser starts in 40 minutes. But something about her eyes... His finger moves to the intercom button. Marcus, lower my window, just a crack. Sir, I don't think... Do it. The glass slides down 2 inches. Cold November air rushes in, the smell of rain and exhaust. The girl's voice is small but steady. Sir, they rejected my mom's grant application from your company, the Second Chance Initiative, but she qualified. I checked. Someone changed the dates. Jonathan's throat tightens. What's your name? Brianna Wilson, and I need you to read this, please. She pushes the soggy envelope through the gap. He takes it. Jonathan tells his driver to wait. He could open this envelope later. He could have his assistant handle it Monday morning. He could do a dozen things that don't involve sitting in a Bentley reading a rejected grant application while a 9-year-old girl stands in the rain. But he opens it anyway. The paper is wet, but he can still read it. Emily Wilson, age 37, former kindergarten teacher, Army veteran, medical discharge due to multiple sclerosis. Applied for housing assistance through Whitmore Industries' Second Chance Initiative, a program Jonathan personally launched 2 years ago with great fanfare and a press conference. Status, denied. Reason, incomplete application, submission date missed deadline. But there's something wrong. The date stamp looks off. The ink is slightly different. Someone wrote over the original date. Brianna, he says through the gap in the window. Who gave you this letter? A lady at your office? 10th floor? She was wearing a watch like yours? Brianna's voice doesn't waver. She said the fund ran out of money. But that doesn't make sense because I saw the article last month that said the program still had $2 million. Jonathan blinks. This child reads budget reports? How old are you? 9. I'll be 10 in February. And you handle your mother's paperwork? Someone has to. No self-pity in her voice, just fact. Mom can't always think straight when her medication makes her fuzzy, so I keep the bills organized, I make the calls. I filled out that application 3 times to make sure it was perfect. Jonathan looks at the paper again, at the altered date, at the precise handwriting in the rejection notes. Brianna, do you trust me? She considers this. I don't know you. Fair answer. He almost smiles. But I'm going to do something that might seem strange. I'm going to drive you home. I want to talk to your mother. And I want to see this application for myself, the original one you submitted. You're not going to call the police on me for bothering you? His chest tightens. No, I'm not. Okay. She steps back from the car. But I need to get my backpack from the bus stop first. 5 minutes later, Brianna Wilson sits in the back of a Bentley for the first time in her life. She doesn't touch anything. Her hands stay folded in her lap, gripping her wet backpack. Jonathan has given her his jacket, but she's still shivering. Marcus, the driver, keeps glancing in the rearview mirror like Jonathan has lost his mind. Maybe he has. Where do you live? Jonathan asks. South Side, near 87th and Cottage Grove. A 40-minute drive from downtown, through neighborhoods that get progressively less shiny. Past boarded-up storefronts and chain-link fences, past buildings with broken windows and yards with winter-dead grass. Jonathan doesn't say much. He just watches Brianna watch the city change around them. You do this every day? He finally asks. Come downtown to ask for help? Not every day, Just when I can. After school. How many people did you ask today? She counts on her fingers. 7. Before you. And they all said no? Most of them didn't let me finish talking. The security guard at the first building called me a... She stops. He wasn't nice. Jonathan feels something hot and sharp in his chest. I'm sorry. It's okay. You get used to it. You shouldn't have to. Brianna shrugs. It's the shrug of someone much older than 9. Someone who's learned that fairness is a word adults use but don't mean. The Bentley pulls up to a low-rise apartment building. Faded brick. Bars on the ground floor windows. A man sits on the front steps smoking, watching them with suspicious eyes. Through the window of the first-floor unit, Jonathan can see medical equipment, an oxygen tank, a wheelchair, dim lighting. Everything is organized but worn, the poverty of people who are trying their best with nothing. Brianna opens the car door. Thank you for the ride, Mr. Whitmore. Wait. Jonathan pulls out his phone. Give me your number. I'm going to look into this, I promise. She recites it carefully. He types it in. Brianna, he says as she climbs out, you said 7 people turned you down today. Why did you keep trying? She looks at him with those 2 old eyes. Because number 8 might say yes. She closes the door and walks into the building, backpack bouncing against her small shoulders. Jonathan sits in silence. Then he texts his assistant Rachel. Pull every second chance initiative file from the past 6 months, especially rejections. I want them on my desk tonight. Marcus catches his eye in the mirror. Sir, the fundraiser, cancel it. Sir, cancel it. We have work to do. 6:15 a.m. The next morning. Brianna's alarm doesn't make sound anymore. The speaker broke 2 months ago, but the vibration is enough. She opens her eyes in the gray pre-dawn light filtering through thin curtains. The apartment is cold. The heat doesn't come on until 7. She slides out from under 2 blankets and a coat, her breath visible in the air. Her feet find her sneakers. She sleeps in socks because the floor is always freezing. First, check on Mom. She tiptoes to the other room. Emily Wilson is asleep, her breathing steady. The oxygen machine hums quietly in the corner. Brianna checks the settings, still good for another 4 hours, then checks the medication chart on the wall. 8 a.m. prednisone, 10 a.m. baclofen, noon gabapentin. She's been managing this schedule since she was 7. In the kitchen, Brianna opens the fridge. Half a carton of eggs, bread, milk that expires tomorrow, strawberry jam. She does the math in her head. 3 meals today, 2 tomorrow, then she needs to go to the food pantry again. She makes 2 pieces of toast, eats 1, wraps the other in a napkin for lunch. Her mother appears in the doorway, leaning heavily on her walker. Baby, you should eat both. I'm not that hungry, Mom, promise. Emily Wilson knows her daughter is lying. But what can she say? That she's sorry, that she wishes things were different. They've had this conversation 100 times. Instead, she lowers herself into the kitchen chair with a soft groan. Did that man really take you home yesterday, the CEO? Yeah, he said he'd look into it. Brianna. Emily's voice cracks. Baby, you can't keep doing this. Going downtown, asking strangers for help. It's not safe, and it's not your job to fix this. Then whose job is it? Emily has no answer. Brianna rinses her plate, checks the time. I gotta go. Miss Rodriguez said if I'm late again, she's calling. She stops. She was going to say calling home, but they both know what that means. Social services. Questions about whether Emily can still care for her daughter, the thing they both fear most. I'll be on time, Brianna says quickly. Love you. She grabs her backpack, still damp from yesterday, and leaves before her mother can argue. Jefferson Elementary, 8:48 a.m. Miss Rodriguez is erasing the board when Brianna slips into the classroom. Not late, but close. Brianna, come here, please. Her heart sinks, but Miss Rodriguez just hands her a brown paper bag. I packed extra lunch today. Thought you might want it. Inside, a sandwich, an apple, juice box, chips. Miss Rodriguez, I can't. Yes, you can, and you will. Her teacher's voice is firm but kind. You're a brilliant kid, Brianna, but you can't learn on an empty stomach. Brianna's throat tightens. She nods, unable to speak. Math class starts. The problem on the board reads, if a family earns $800 per month and rent costs $950, how much do they need to make up the difference? Brianna doesn't raise her hand. She already knows the answer. She lives it every single day. $150 short. That's the number that keeps her mom up at night. That's the number that means choosing between electricity and medicine. That's the number that makes a 9-year-old girl stand in the rain begging strangers for help. 3:30 p.m. after school. Brianna walks 6 blocks to Cornerstone Community Shelter. Not for food, she already ate Miss Rodriguez's sandwich, but for the free legal clinic in the basement. Samuel Brooks is there, a paralegal who volunteers Tuesday and Thursday afternoons. He's young, maybe 30, with kind eyes and a quiet anger at the systems that keep failing people. "Brianna," he waves her over. "I filed the appeal on your mom's veterans benefits, but I have to tell you, someone really messed with these forms." He spreads the paperwork on the table. "See these dates? They've been altered, and not by accident. Someone deliberately changed your submission date to make it look like you missed the deadline." "Who would do that?" "I don't know. But this isn't the first case I've seen like this. There's a pattern." Samuel's jaw tightens. "Someone in the system is sabotaging applications, and I think they're getting away with it because people like your mom, veterans, single parents, people struggling, don't have the resources to fight back." "How long will the appeal take?" 6 to 8 months, maybe longer. Brianna does the math. 6 months. They don't have 6 months. She thanks Samuel and walks home, past Whitmore Tower again. The Bentley isn't there. She wonders if Jonathan Whitmore has already forgotten about her. Most people do. That evening, 42nd floor, Whitmore Tower. Jonathan Whitmore sits at his desk, 2 monitors glowing in the darkness. His assistant Rachel Stevens left an hour ago, but the files she pulled are still here. Stacks of them. 87 rejection letters from the Second Chance Initiative, all from the past 6 months. He opens the first one. Maria Rodriguez, single mother, denied. Incomplete documentation. Second file, James Anderson, veteran, denied. Missed submission deadline. 3rd, 4th, 5th. A pattern emerges like a slow-motion car crash. 60% of applications from veterans or single-parent households rejected. The previous year, 15% rejection rate. Jonathan pulls up the program's charter, the one he signed 2 years ago at that press conference, surrounded by cameras and smiling board members. Full discretion over allocation decisions granted to the VP of Operations and Initiative Committee Chair, Margaret Hartwell. He reaches for his phone, then stops. Margaret has been with him for 12 years, loyal, competent. She built half the systems that keep this company running. But Brianna's words echo in his head. "The lady was wearing a watch like yours." Jonathan looks at his Patek Philippe. $40,000. Margaret wears the same model. He gave it to her as a bonus 3 years ago. He dials her extension. "Margaret, my office, now." 10 minutes later, she arrives. Perfectly composed in a charcoal suit, her hair in its usual neat bun. She's carrying a tablet. "Jonathan? Working late?" "Sit down." Something in his tone makes her pause, but she sits. "Is everything all right?" "Tell me about the Second Chance Initiative." "Of course. We've distributed over $1.2 million this year. 43 families served. The program is performing. Why was Emily Wilson rejected?" Margaret doesn't miss a beat. "Wilson, let me check." She taps her tablet. Incomplete application. She missed the submission deadline by 6 days. "Show me." She turns the tablet around. The documentation looks pristine. Official, every box checked. "Margaret, I met her daughter yesterday, a 9-year-old girl who told me she submitted that application 3 times to make sure it was perfect. She said someone changed the dates." "Jonathan?" Margaret's voice is patient, almost maternal. "I know you have a big heart, but these people, they make mistakes and then they blame the system. It's easier than taking responsibility." "These people?" "Applicants, I didn't mean—" She regroups smoothly. "What I mean is, we have protocols, standards. If I let one incomplete application through, where does it end? The whole program loses integrity." "How much are we paying you, Margaret?" The question catches her off guard. My compensation is $340,000 base salary, plus bonuses, plus stock options." Jonathan leans forward. "The Second Chance Initiative has a budget of $2.8 million annually. You chair the committee with full discretion, no oversight." "You're the one who signed that charter, Jonathan." "I know, that was my mistake." Silence stretches between them like a chasm opening. "Are you accusing me of something?" Margaret's voice goes cold. I'm asking you to explain why 60% of vulnerable applicants are suddenly being rejected when the fund is fully capitalized. I'm protecting the program from fraud, from people gaming the system. I've been doing my job. She stands. And frankly, I'm offended that one conversation with a child has made you question 12 years of loyalty. She walks to the door, then pauses. That girl, Brianna Wilson, she came to this building yesterday, made a scene. Security had to remove her. Is that who you're taking advice from now? She didn't make a scene, she asked for help. She touched a $300,000 car and harassed our valet. She's 9 years old. She's a problem. Margaret opens the door. Think carefully about this, Jonathan. About what happens if you start investigating your own people based on the word of someone like her. The board won't like it. Your reputation won't survive it. She leaves. Jonathan sits alone in the dark office. Then he picks up his phone and calls an old friend. Thomas, it's Jonathan Whitmore. I need a forensic accountant, and I need you to keep it quiet. 48 hours later. Thomas Anderson, forensic accountant, old college roommate, and the most meticulous human Jonathan has ever met, sits across from him with a laptop and 3 folders. You're not going to like this, Thomas says. Show me. Thomas opens the first folder. The Second Chance Initiative has distributed $1.4 million in the past 18 months. But here's the problem. Those families never received the money. Jonathan's stomach drops. What? The payments are real. They're in the system, but they don't go to the applicants. Thomas pulls up a spreadsheet. They're routed through a consulting firm called Bridgepoint Strategies, LLC, supposedly for program administration and recipient vetting. Who owns Bridgepoint? One employee, Richard Hartwell. The name hits like a fist. Margaret's brother. Correct. The scheme is elegant, actually. Applications get approved on paper. Looks great for your annual reports. Money gets transferred to Bridgepoint for processing. Then it just stops. The applicants get rejection letters citing technicalities. The money disappears into Bridgepoint's accounts. How much? $1.4 million over 18 months. Could be more if this goes back further. Jonathan's hands shake. Margaret has been stealing from families who qualified for help. Not just stealing. She's been systematically targeting the most vulnerable applicants, veterans, single parents, people who don't have resources to fight back, the ones who'll accept a rejection letter and give up. Not all of them gave up. Jonathan thinks of Brianna standing in the rain. Some of them kept trying. Thomas closes the laptop. Jonathan, you can fire her quietly. Avoid the scandal. Move on. And the 87 families? They'd never know what really happened. Jonathan stands, walks to the window. Chicago stretches out below him, 42 floors of distance between this office and the streets where Brianna walks every day. I made a promise, he says quietly, to a 9-year-old girl, that I'd fix this. Fixing it means going public. It means admitting you didn't catch it. The board will destroy you. Then they destroy me. Jonathan turns. Pull the records on every rejected applicant. All 87, we're calling them. Every single one. The next morning, Southside apartment. Brianna opens the door and freezes. Jonathan Whitmore stands in the hallway wearing a suit that probably cost more than 3 months' rent. He's holding an envelope. Not soggy, not ruined. Crisp and white. Hi, Brianna. Mr. Whitmore. She glances behind her. Her mom is in the bathroom. What are you doing here? I came to keep my promise. Emily Wilson appears, leaning on her walker. Her eyes go wide. Oh my God, you're actually Mrs. Wilson, may I come in? They sit at the small kitchen table. Jonathan places the envelope between them. I had my team investigate your application. You were right, Brianna. Someone changed the dates. Someone in my company has been stealing from the Second Chance Initiative, from families like yours. Emily's hand flies to her mouth. Stealing? For 18 months, maybe longer. $1.4 million. 87 families denied help they qualified for. Jonathan opens the envelope. This is a check for $45,000. The full grant amount you qualified for, plus compensation for the year of hardship you endured because of our failure. The check sits on the table like something from another dimension. Emily starts crying. Not quiet tears, deep, shaking sobs that seem to come from somewhere ancient and exhausted. "Why?" she manages. "Why would you do this?" "Because you earned it. Because someone broke a promise I made when I started this program." Jonathan looks at Brianna. "And because your daughter wouldn't let me look away." Brianna stares at the check. $45,000. Electric bills paid, medication covered, rent for a year, food, heat, the things normal people don't think about but that have consumed her entire life. "What about the other families?" she asks. Emily looks at her daughter, stunned. "Baby, Mom, there are 86 other families. What about them?" Jonathan meets Brianna's eyes, sees himself reflected back, not the version that cuts ribbons at press conferences, but the version that should have been paying attention all along. "I'm going to fix it," he says. "All of it. I promise you." He stands to leave, but Brianna grabs his sleeve. "Mr. Whitmore, thank you. Thank you for listening." "Thank you," he says quietly, "for making me stop." Outside the apartment building, Jonathan's driver opens the Bentley door, but Jonathan pauses. A man with a camera is across the street, lens pointed directly at him. The flash goes off. Jonathan's phone buzzes. A text from Rachel. "Margaret's team just leaked a story. Says you're exploiting low-income families for PR. Photo of you leaving the South Side. Be prepared." He looks back at the apartment building. Through the window, he can see Emily holding the check, Brianna standing beside her. "Sir?" the driver prompts. "It's fine," Jonathan says. "Let them write what they want. We have work to do." But when he checks his phone an hour later, the headlines are already spreading. "Billionaire CEO visits low-income area. Publicity stunt or genuine concern. Whitmore Industries under fire. CEO accused of exploiting sympathetic story." Margaret's counteroffensive has begun, and Jonathan realizes doing the right thing is going to cost him everything. His phone rings. It's Clark Ashford, the board member with the most shares and the least conscience. "Jonathan, we need to talk about this PR disaster you've created. It's not a disaster, Clark, it's justice. It's a liability. The board is calling an emergency meeting tomorrow, 9 a.m. Fine, I'll be there." "Jonathan," Clark's voice drops. "Think very carefully about what you're doing. Margaret has allies, and you're making some very powerful people nervous." The line goes dead. Jonathan looks at his phone, at Thomas's forensic report, at the list of 87 names. Then he texts Brianna. "Keep fighting, we're not done yet." 3 dots appear. Then, "Thank you for keeping your promise." He closes his eyes. He's about to walk into a war. The board will fight him. Margaret will fight him. The media will crucify him. But for the first time in 20 years, Jonathan Whitmore knows exactly what side he's on. 2 weeks later, Brianna's apartment looks different. Not fancy, not transformed into something from a magazine, but lighter. There's food in the fridge, real food, not just eggs and bread. The heat is on. Emily's medications are lined up on the counter, all refilled. The overdue bills that used to cover the kitchen table are gone, replaced by a small vase with fresh flowers Emily bought herself because she could. Brianna has new sneakers. She picked them out herself at the store, red high tops with white laces. They don't have holes. They fit. After school, she goes to the art program at the community center. She never had time before. There was always another office to visit, another person to ask, another rejection to absorb. But now, she has 2 hours every Tuesday and Thursday to just be 9. Today, she's drawing. Miss Rodriguez, who volunteers at the center, leans over her shoulder. "That's beautiful, Brianna. What is it?" "It's Mr. Whitmore's car, but I gave it wings." "Why wings?" Brianna thinks about this. "Because it took me somewhere I couldn't get to by myself, like flying." Miss Rodriguez's eyes get shiny, but she just squeezes Brianna's shoulder and moves on. That night, Emily cooks dinner. Not much, just pasta and vegetables, but she cooked it standing up, without needing to rest every 5 minutes. Her MS is better when stress is lower, better when she's not choosing between medicine and rent. They eat together at the table. "Mom," Brianna says, "the library at school needs volunteers. Miss Rodriguez said you could do it. Just a few hours a week." Emily's face lights up. "Really?" "Yeah. She said you could read to the kindergartners, like you used to." For the first time in 2 years, Emily Wilson feels like something other than a burden. Like maybe she has something left to give. "I'd love that," she whispers. Later, Brianna texts Jonathan, "Thank you for keeping your promise." He texts back, "Thank you for stopping me at my car." Brianna tapes her drawing, the Bentley with wings, to the refrigerator. For the first time in her life, she goes to bed not worrying about tomorrow. The boardroom. Next morning. 9 a.m. 9 board members sit around the mahogany table. Jonathan stands at the head with Thomas Anderson's forensic report projected on the screen behind him. He expected resistance. He didn't expect coordinated warfare. Gentlemen, ladies, I've discovered systematic fraud within the Second Chance Initiative. Over $1.4 million diverted through a shell company owned by Jonathan. Clark Ashford's voice cuts through like a blade. We've all read your report, and frankly, we're more concerned about the liability you've created than the allegations you're making. Liability? Jonathan's jaw tightens. 87 families were denied aid they qualified for. That's not liability, that's theft. Board member Patricia Hill leans forward. It's your word against a 12-year executives, based on a forensic audit you commissioned without board authorization. Do you understand how this looks? It looks like I'm doing my job. It looks like you met a sympathetic child and made emotional decisions that could expose this company to lawsuits, regulatory scrutiny, and reputational damage. Clark slides a folder across the table. We've had 3 law firms review this situation. The consensus is clear. Quiet settlement, confidentiality agreements, move forward. You want to pay them to stay silent? We want to protect the company you built. The door opens. Margaret Hartwell enters, escorted by her attorney, a shark in a $2,000 suit. Jonathan stares. What is she doing here? Miss Hartwell has a right to defend herself against these accusations, the attorney says smoothly. May she speak? Clark nods. Margaret stands, poised as ever. Jonathan, I understand you care deeply about this program. That's why I've spent 2 years protecting it. But what you're calling fraud is standard administrative overhead. Administrative overhead? Jonathan's voice rises. You routed money to your brother's company, a consulting firm vetted and approved by legal. She produces a document, official letterhead, signatures, dates. This memo clearly authorizes Bridgepoint Strategies to handle recipient verification. It's right here. Jonathan snatches the paper. The memo looks legitimate, but something's wrong. The signature is photocopied, not original. The date formatting is slightly off. This is forged. That's a serious accusation, Margaret's attorney warns. Defamation even. Thomas. Jonathan gestures to the forensic accountant. Tell them what you found. Thomas stands, nervous but determined. The payments to Bridgepoint never reached the applicants. That's not administrative overhead. That's embezzlement. Margaret's attorney doesn't flinch. Mr. Anderson's audit was conducted without proper authorization. Any findings are inadmissible in legal proceedings and potentially defamatory. My client is prepared to pursue damages if these accusations continue. She stole from families in crisis. Jonathan slams his hand on the table. Jonathan! Patricia Hill's voice is cold. You commissioned an unauthorized audit. You visited applicants personally, creating exposure. You made restitution payments without board approval. Frankly, your judgment is in question here, not Miss Hartwell's. The room goes silent. Clark Ashford opens another folder. We've also learned that Miss Hartwell's team has been in contact with the 87 families. 63 have already accepted settlement offers with confidentiality agreements. Jonathan's stomach drops. You paid them off? We offered resolution, Margaret says quietly, because families in crisis need help now, not years of litigation. I was protecting them, and protecting you from your own impulsiveness. Impulsiveness? Jonathan's voice shakes. I met a 9-year-old girl standing in the rain because your people shoved her away from my car, because you rejected her mother's application after changing the dates to disqualify her. I have no knowledge of anyone being shoved. And if dates were corrected, it was to match our actual receipt of incomplete documentation. Margaret's eyes are steady, unflinching. Jonathan, you met that child once. I've been beside you for 12 years. Who do you trust? The question hangs in the air like poison. Clark clears his throat. We're calling for a vote to place Jonathan on temporary administrative leave pending an independent investigation into his conduct regarding this matter. Margaret will be suspended with pay until the investigation concludes. My conduct? Jonathan stares around the table. You're investigating me? You violated protocols. You exposed the company. You made unilateral financial decisions. Patricia counts on her fingers. This isn't personal, Jonathan. It's governance. All in favor? 6 hands rise. Motion passes. Jonathan, you're barred from company premises effective immediately. We'll issue a statement citing internal review of charitable program management. Your assistant will box your personal items. Jonathan looks at each board member. People he hired. People whose careers he built. You're letting her win. We're protecting the company, Clark says, from everyone, including you. Outside the boardroom, Margaret catches up to Jonathan at the elevator. You should have stayed in your car, she says quietly. That little girl, she'll be fine. Her mother cashed the check. They got what they wanted, but you just lost everything. The elevator doors open. Jonathan steps in. I'd rather lose everything, he says, than become you. The doors close on Margaret's cold smile. That afternoon, the press release goes out at 3 p.m. Whitmore Industries CEO placed on administrative leave amid internal review of charity program irregularities. By 4 p.m., the story has morphed. Whitmore CEO removed after fraud allegations against longtime executive. By 5 p.m., the narrative is set. Billionaire's white savior stunt backfires. Company distances from controversial CEO. Conservative outlets frame it as woke overreach. Progressive outlets question Jonathan's motives. Everyone has an opinion. Nobody mentions Brianna's name. But at Jefferson Elementary, the kids have seen the news. Your rich friend got fired because of you, Tyler Martinez sneers during recess. My mom says your family is scamming people, another girl adds. You're a liar. My dad says so. Brianna stands frozen on the playground while the accusations pile up like stones. Miss Rodriguez intervenes, but the damage is done. That night, Brianna doesn't go to art class. She comes home, puts the drawing of the winged Bentley in a drawer, and closes it. Emily finds her sitting on the bed, staring at nothing. Baby, what happened? I ruined his life, Mom. He tried to help us, and I ruined everything. Brianna, no. Everyone says so. The kids at school, the news, everyone. Her voice cracks. Maybe I should have just stayed quiet. Maybe I should have just given up. Emily pulls her daughter close. Don't you dare. Don't you ever think that asking for help was wrong. But Brianna doesn't believe her. Because right now it feels like the worst mistake she ever made. 3 days later, Jonathan Whitmore sits in a coffee shop on the south side. Not his usual downtown haunts. No mahogany. No waiters who know his name, just Formica tables and coffee that costs $2 instead of $12. Across from him, Samuel Brooks, the paralegal from Cornerstone Community Shelter. Mr. Whitmore, I'm going to be honest. When you called, I thought it was a prank. I wish it was. Jonathan slides a folder across the table. I need your help. You said you've been tracking similar patterns across corporate charity programs? Samuel opens the folder and his eyes widen. This is everything. Transaction records, emails, the shell company structure. He looks up. How did you get this? I paid for a forensic audit before they locked me out of my own company. They can do that? When 6 board members vote against you, apparently? Jonathan's smile is bitter. But here's what they can't take. The truth. And I need someone who knows how to fight this kind of systemic fraud. Samuel flips through pages, his expression darkening. Bridgepoint Strategies. I've seen this name before. Not with your company, with others. Medical device manufacturer, tech startup, real estate firm, same pattern, charity program, inflated administrative costs, families denied. How many? At least 6 companies in Chicago alone. Could be nationwide. Samuel pulls out his laptop. I've been documenting cases for 2 years, but I never had the resources to connect them. Now you're giving me the smoking gun. Then use it. The door opens. A woman enters, late 30s, sharp eyes, carrying a reporter's notebook. Keisha Monroe, Chicago Tribune. She sits without invitation. Samuel said you had a story. I'm listening. Jonathan studies her. How do I know you won't just run another billionaire white savior piece? Because I don't write puff pieces. I write investigations that end careers. Keisha pulls out her phone, starts recording. And because I've been tracking Margaret Hartwell's brother for 18 months, I just didn't know how high the corruption went. For the next hour, Jonathan lays it out. The forensic report, the altered dates, the $1.4 million, the 87 families. Keisha asks questions that cut like scalpels. Samuel cross-references cases. Jonathan provides documentation. Finally, Keisha sits back. This is bigger than corporate fraud. This is systemic exploitation of the most vulnerable people in society using charity programs as cover. It's brilliant in the worst possible way. Can you prove it? With what you've given me? Absolutely. But I need the families, the ones who didn't take settlement offers, the ones willing to go on record. There are 24 left, Samuel says quietly. Out of 87, 24 refused Margaret's buyout. 24 people who chose truth over money, Jonathan murmurs. That's who we need. 1 week later, community room at Cornerstone Shelter. 24 families gather, black, white, Latino, Asian, veterans, single parents, formerly incarcerated people trying to rebuild. The only thing they have in common, they all qualified for help, and they were all rejected. Jonathan stands before them, no longer CEO, just a man who failed them. My name is Jonathan Whitmore. I created the Second Chance Initiative to help families like yours, and then I looked away while someone destroyed it. I'm here to say I'm sorry, and I'm here to ask if you'll help me fix it. A man stands, William Hayes, early 40s, Marine Corps tattoo visible on his forearm. Why should we trust you? You're the one who signed off on the program that screwed us. You shouldn't trust me. You should trust evidence. Jonathan nods to Thomas, who projects the forensic report. This is proof that Margaret Hartwell stole $1.4 million that should have gone to you. Proof that she systematically targeted vulnerable applicants because you wouldn't have resources to fight back. A woman in the back row, Maria Rodriguez, single mother of 3, calls out, "What do you want from us?" "Your stories, your truth. Keisha Monroe from the Tribune is here. She's going to write this, and Samuel Brooks is going to file a class action lawsuit. But none of it works without you." William Hayes crosses his arms. "And what do you get out of this?" "Nothing. I've already lost my company, my reputation, everything I built." Jonathan's voice steadies. "But I made a promise to a 9-year-old girl that I'd fix this, and I don't break promises to children." Silence. Then Brianna Wilson stands up from the back of the room. Jonathan's breath catches. He didn't know she was here. "Mr. Whitmore came to my house," Brianna says, her voice small but clear. "He gave my mom a check. He didn't have to. Nobody asked him to. He did it because it was right." She looks around the room. "My mom says we should forgive people who make mistakes if they try to fix them. I think he's trying." William Hayes looks at this child, this 9-year-old who somehow ended up at the center of a $1 million conspiracy, and something in his face softens. "All right," he says. "I'm in. Let's burn it all down." One by one, the other families agree. 24 people who refuse to be silenced. 24 people who chose justice over settlement money. 24 people who just became Jonathan Whitmore's army. 2 weeks later, the headline drops at 6 a.m. The Charity Con, How Corporate Good Deeds Became a Family Business, by Keisha Monroe, Chicago Tribune. The article is devastating. 3,500 words of forensic precision, transaction records, testimonies from the 24 families, expert analysis from Samuel Brooks. And at the center, Margaret Hartwell and her brother Richard, running a charity scam across 6 companies in 3 states. By 8 a.m., the story is trending nationwide. By 9 a.m., the FBI field office in Chicago has opened an investigation into wire fraud. By 10 a.m., Margaret Hartwell's attorney is on every news channel calling it a witch hunt orchestrated by a disgraced CEO. But the narrative has shifted. This isn't about Jonathan Whitmore anymore. It's about 87 families. 24 voices, proof that can't be spun away. 11:30 a.m., Whitmore Industries boardroom. Clark Ashford's phone hasn't stopped ringing. Shareholders, attorneys, regulatory agencies, the press. Patricia Hill throws the Tribune on the table. "This is a catastrophe. We need to get ahead of this," another board member says. "Distance ourselves from Margaret immediately." Too late for that. Clark's jaw tightens. 3 board members have already resigned this morning. The SEC is asking questions, and Jonathan Whitmore just became a folk hero. Patricia picks up her phone. "Get me Jonathan, now." 12:15 p.m. Jonathan's apartment. His phone rings. Unknown number. He almost doesn't answer. Jonathan Whitmore. "It's Clark. The board would like you to return. Immediately. We made a mistake." Jonathan sits in silence for a long moment. "You didn't make a mistake, Clark. You made a choice. You chose Margaret over justice. You chose protecting the company over protecting the people we were supposed to help. We're prepared to reinstate you with full authority. Margaret will be terminated. We'll make this right. No, I'll make it right, and you'll stay out of my way. He hangs up. 2 days later, Chicago City Council, public hearing on corporate accountability and charitable programs. The chamber is packed. Press cameras line the back wall. The 24 families sit in the front rows. Brianna Wilson sits beside her mother wearing her red high tops and a dress Miss Rodriguez helped her pick out. Council member James Richardson bangs the gavel. We'll now hear testimony regarding allegations of fraud in corporate-sponsored assistance programs. First witness, William Hayes. William stands, former Marine, 43 years old, father of 2. My name is William Hayes. I served 2 tours in Afghanistan, got injured, came home, tried to rebuild. I applied for housing assistance through Whitmore Industries' Second Chance initiative. I qualified. I did everything right. His voice hardens. Then I got a rejection letter saying I didn't qualify because of my background, my criminal background, except I don't have one, not even a parking ticket. He holds up the letter. This lie went to my kids' school, to my apartment manager, to my family, made me look like a failure, made me look like a liar to my own children. His voice cracks. My daughter, she's 7. She asked me why the nice company people said I was bad. I had no answer. I still don't. The chamber is silent. One by one, the families testify. Maria Rodriguez. They told me I missed the deadline. I have the certified mail receipt proving I didn't. James Turner. They said my paperwork was incomplete. I submitted it 3 times. Lisa Washington. They told me the fund ran out, but the company's annual report said it was fully funded. Each story is a small devastation. Each voice adds weight. Then Emily Wilson's name is called. Brianna helps her mother to the witness stand. Emily grips the wheelchair armrests, her hands shaking. Not from MS this time, but from rage finally given permission to exist. My name is Emily Wilson. I'm a kindergarten teacher, or I was, before multiple sclerosis made it impossible to stand for 6 hours a day, before medical bills made it impossible to keep my apartment, before the system I trusted told me I didn't qualify for help I'd earned. She looks directly at the council members. I taught children to trust institutions, to believe that if they worked hard and followed the rules, the system would be fair. Then institutions taught my daughter not to trust adults, taught her that asking for help makes you a target, taught her that being poor and black means you don't matter. Emily's voice strengthens. But my daughter didn't stop asking, and one man, just one, stopped long enough to listen. That's all it took. One person willing to see past the glass. She pauses. I'm here because Margaret Hartwell stole money from my family, but I'm also here because we can't let this be normal. We can't let corporations pretend to care while they profit from our desperation. The chamber erupts in applause. 1:45 p.m., Jonathan's testimony. Jonathan Whitmore takes the stand, not as CEO, but as witness. I built the Second Chance initiative with good intentions, and then I made a fatal mistake. I walked away. I trusted structure over people. I trusted paperwork over humanity. I signed a charter giving one person unchecked power, and I didn't look back. He glances at Brianna in the front row. Until a 9-year-old girl stood in the rain and made me look. He turns to the council. Here's what I've learned. Opportunity isn't charity. It's debt we owe. These families didn't need saving. They needed access. They needed the system to work the way we promised it would. And when it didn't, they needed someone with power to care enough to fix it. He pulls out a document. I'm announcing a personal restitution fund of $5 million, separate from company resources, to compensate all 87 families for damages, legal fees, and the year of hardship they endured because I failed in my oversight. Gasps ripple through the chamber. I'm also proposing new legislation requiring independent audits of all corporate charitable programs, public reporting, recipient advisory boards, no more unchecked discretion, no more opportunities for people like Margaret Hartwell to exploit the vulnerable. He sits down. Councilmember Richardson nods slowly. This council will take Mr. Whitmore's proposals under advisement, but first, we have one more witness, Miss Brianna Wilson. Brianna's eyes go wide. She wasn't on the witness list. Emily squeezes her hand. You don't have to, baby. But Brianna stands, walks to the microphone. A 9-year-old girl in red sneakers facing a room full of adults and cameras. My name is Brianna Wilson. I'm 9 years old. I live on the South Side. And I just want to say... She pauses, looks at Jonathan, at her mother, at the 24 families. My mom says forgiveness is important, so I forgive Mr. Whitmore for not watching his program close enough. But I also want companies to know kids are watching. We see when you lie. We see when you pretend to care but really don't. We see everything. Her voice gets stronger. And someday we're going to be the grown-ups, so you better start being honest now. The chamber explodes. Not polite applause, a standing ovation that lasts 3 full minutes. Jonathan wipes his eyes. So does Samuel. So does Keisha. Even some of the council members are crying. 3 days later, FBI field office. Margaret Hartwell and her brother Richard are arrested on federal wire fraud charges. The scheme crossed state lines. The evidence is overwhelming. Richard flips within 48 hours, providing testimony in exchange for a reduced sentence. Margaret's attorney tries to negotiate. The prosecution refuses. Television cameras capture her being led out of Whitmore Tower in handcuffs, the same building where Brianna was shoved away from a car 8 weeks ago. The symmetry is almost poetic. 1 week later, emergency shareholder meeting. Jonathan Whitmore is reinstated as CEO with a unanimous vote, but this time with new conditions. Asterisk quarterly independent audits of all charitable programs, asterisk recipient advisory board with paid positions for program beneficiaries, asterisk community advocates on the board of directors. Samuel Brooks is appointed to the first community advocate seat. Salary, $85,000. Keisha Monroe is hired as Director of Accountability and Transparency. Salary, $140,000. Clark Ashford resigns, Patricia Hill resigns, 2 other board members follow. The company Jonathan built is being rebuilt, this time with the people it's supposed to serve inside the room where decisions are made. 6 months later, spring. Brianna Wilson stands outside Jefferson Elementary in her cap and gown, 5th grade graduation. The sun is warm, the sky is impossibly blue. Her mother sits in the front row of folding chairs wearing a new dress. Not designer, not expensive, but hers, bought with her own money from her new job as a curriculum consultant for veterans education programs, part-time, remote, flexible around her MS. The apartment is different now, not luxurious but stable, rent paid 6 months ahead, medications covered, a small savings account, Emily's first in 7 years. There's art on the walls, plants by the window, a coffee maker that works, normal things that used to be impossible. Brianna gives a short speech to her class, not about trauma or hardship, but about curiosity and courage, about asking questions even when people don't want to answer, about believing that the world can be better if someone is brave enough to demand it. In the back row, Jonathan Whitmore sits beside Rachel Stevens. He's quieter these days, more careful, more present. After the ceremony, Brianna introduces him to Miss Rodriguez. You know, Miss Rodriguez says, she never told anyone she talked to you that day. I only found out from the news. Jonathan smiles. That sounds like her. Miss Rodriguez lowers her voice. What you did, coming back, fighting for those families, my own brother was one of them, James Turner. You gave him his life back. He gave me mine, Jonathan says quietly. Later, in the parking lot, Emily pulls Jonathan aside. I don't know how to thank you. You don't have to. Yes, I do. You didn't just give us money. You gave us dignity. You proved that someone with power could actually care. Her eyes fill. Do you know what that means to people like us? Jonathan thinks about the Bentley, about the moment he almost drove away, about how close he came to being just another person who didn't stop. I'm the one who should be thanking you, and Brianna. She saved me from becoming someone I wouldn't recognize. Emily hugs him, brief, fierce, grateful. That evening, Jonathan exits Whitmore Tower. The Bentley is gone. He drives a Prius now, more practical, less performative. He's walking toward his car when a voice stops him. Excuse me, sir? He turns. A boy, maybe 10, Latino, nervous, holding a crumpled paper. My teacher said you help people. Can you help my abuela? She needs... Jonathan kneels down immediately, eye level, full attention. Tell me about her, he says. The boy's face floods with relief. Behind them, the tower looms, but Jonathan isn't looking at it. He's looking at the child in front of him. He's present. He's listening. He's finally doing what he should have been doing all along. The Prius can wait. The Second Chance Initiative has expanded to 12 cities across the United States, serving over 2,000 families. Margaret Hartwell was sentenced to 7 years in federal prison for wire fraud and conspiracy. Her brother Richard received 4 years. Emily Wilson now trains corporate leaders on authentic community partnership and serves on the recipient advisory board of 3 national charitable programs. Brianna Wilson is a sophomore at the University of Chicago studying public policy. She interns at Whitmore Industries every summer. Jonathan Whitmore retired as CEO in 2024 but remains on the board as Director of Social Impact. He drives a Prius now and answers every email from families seeking help. The 24 families who refuse settlement started a nonprofit called the 24 Project, advocating for corporate charity accountability. Last year, they helped pass legislation in Illinois requiring independent audits of all corporate charitable programs. Samuel Brooks is now a state legislator representing Chicago's South Side. Keisha Monroe won a Pulitzer Prize for investigative reporting. If this story moved you, leave a comment telling us about a time someone stopped to listen when you needed it most. And if you believe in second chances, hit that subscribe button, because everyone deserves to be heard.